Do you guys want something? And you can fill in front too.
Okay, everyone, let's get underway. Thank you for joining us. My name is Jennifer McGuffin. I am the Chief Communications Officer for the law firm of Romanucci and Blandin. I'm going to let you know who is with us and who will be speaking, and then we'll get underway. Members of the legal team here include founding partner Antonio Romanucci of Romanucci and Blandin, senior attorney Maura White, senior attorney Stephen Weil could not be here today. Senior litigation paralegal Dana Condos is here. Our co-counsel, civil rights attorney Ben Crump, was unable to be here today, but we will share a statement from him. Also, we have a video recorded statement from Attorney Crump that will be distributed after this event. We have a number of friends, family members of Jakarta Jackson. You will be hearing from Yanessa Martin, who is the administrator of his estate and the mother of his child. Also present, Lucia Jackson, his sister, Ezekiel Jackson, his brother, Latrice Jackson, sister, and Seville Jackson, brother. And as you can see, a number of other people as well. I do want to make sure that we have an understanding there are a number of children in the room, and we would please ask the press not to photograph or videotape any of the children. Thank you. After you hear from two attorneys and then Yanessa Martin, we will take questions, but the questions will only be for attorneys. Thank you very much. My pleasure to introduce you to Antonio Romanucci.
Good morning, everyone. As Jen said, my name is Antonio Romanucci, and I'm here as a representative for the family of Jakarta. Once again, in our state, we have a police officer who had a self-fulfilling prophecy of shooting someone, saying that he was going to shoot someone, and he did. It was only less than a year ago where we had another officer in this state who had a self-fulfilling prophecy of shooting someone in the face, and he did. And here we have Officer Taylor's self-fulfilling prophecy that he was going to shoot Jakarta, not once, not twice, not 3 times, 4 times. He told him that he was going to shoot him, and he absolutely did shoot him. He knew he was going to shoot him as soon as he identified and stopped Jakarta. He knew he was going to shoot him, and he did. There is no basis for us to be here today, even announcing this lawsuit, because Jakarta never, ever should have been shot. He was taken away from his daughter. He was taken away from his family, needlessly and unnecessarily. And that was because, and you will hear why, because of horrible, horrific training in this city. Had he been trained as a police officer, he never would have been shot. The police officer who stopped Jakarta on January 5th, he had multiple opportunities to keep the encounter under control, but he failed to do that. As soon as he began running after Jakarta, he told him, "I'm going to shoot you," with some other very descriptive words after that, which I'm not going to repeat because we have children present. But at every turn, this officer not only ramped up the encounter, he completely escalated it to the point where he gave himself no other choice but to shoot at Jakarta. But before he did that, of course, we know that he smashed the window on Jakarta's car. So we know that he had enough of a clear view to look inside the car. And what should he have seen? And if he didn't see it, that's even worse. Babies, children, another adult in the passenger seat. And this officer thought that it was within administrative rules or under his training to shoot at someone when there are babies in the car and other innocent people in the line of fire? Oh, and let's talk about what Jakarta was doing at the moment in the moments right before he was being shot. Facing you in the upper left-hand corner is a still picture of the body-worn camera from Officer Taylor. And this is Jakarta. And what do you see? His hands are up in the air. And what's in his hands? Nothing. So, to a trained police officer, Jakarta was unarmed. And I understand you're thinking, well, the video shows the totality of the circumstances. And we don't shy away from the entire video. But I'm giving you a little pieces of what we know. And that Jakarta at all times was unarmed. He did not pose a threat to Officer Taylor, but Officer Taylor created enough of a threat and escalated it where he felt that Jakarta was a threat when he never was. And what's the next thing that we see? In seconds after that, we see people inside the car. I told you that there were others inside the car, including babies, children in the back seat, with an adult in the front seat. And then what's the next thing you see? A gun. A gun being pointed right in the line of fire of other innocent civilians. And for what? For chasing an unarmed man and ensuring that you get him under control? Officer Taylor behaved this way because the Rock Island Police Department let him do it. In legal terms, that means ratification. They have allowed their police officers to act in this way. And how do we know that? Well, we know it by one way. One of the ways that we know it is by the chief of police in this town, who said that they did not do enough to, quote, rein in newer police officers, which includes Officer Taylor. So this was something that was predictable. It was bound to happen because of a lack of training, because of a lack of being able to rein in. And when I hear a chief of police talking about reining in police officers, we think of it in terms of excessive force or uses of deadly force, as in this case right here. That's why this was preventable and certainly 100% predictable. Now, Jakarta, like many other black residents of Rock Island, he was aware that encounters with police can wrongfully and can result in injury or death. And that's what happened. It's exactly what happened. He died during a traffic stop. Why was he stopped? Because the tint on his windows was darker than what it should have been. That's according to Officer Taylor. Now, I don't think he had time yet to measure the tint, but that was his feeling. Now, imagine how a traffic stop can escalate into a deadly encounter. So, we announced today, along with the Ben Crump law firm, we announced the filing of the civil lawsuit to hold Rock Island Police Department and its chief and the officer involved accountable for the loss of Jakarta Jackson's life and also the trauma that was brought on to these two children who were inside the car, as well as the adult who was in the passenger seat, and that is Ezekiel. So Ben Crump, as Jen told you, he could not be here today. But he is in full support of Jakarta's family and fully endorses this civil lawsuit that we have filed. And I'd like to take an opportunity now to read to you a portion of Ben's video statement. And you will have that full video statement shortly after this press conference today. Ben will tell you, quote, the officer who stole Jakarta Jackson's life did not, and reasonably, and the actions reflect the culture of the department that employed him. He behaved the way his department allowed him to behave. Time and again, we see the patterns of excessive force used against people of color who are simply trying to survive encounters with police. Jakarta never posed a threat. This traffic stop never should have happened, and it certainly should not have ended with the death of a young father. And that is the end of his quote. So, the city of Rock Island, we know, has a policing problem. And I'm going to go through with you just a few of the encounters that Rock Island has had with other citizens, black citizens, that show that there is not only a willful disregard of life by the police officers, but the Rock Island Police Department has had a custom practice and policy of ignoring bad policing and allowing it to continue, which results in horrible deaths such as this one here. So, examples of other cases involving Rock Island Police Department's excessive force against black civilians include January 14th, 2013, Daryl Dickerson, a double leg and arm amputee, filed a lawsuit against Rock Island Police for using excessive and unreasonable force during an arrest for a misdemeanor in 2011. That case was settled and the matter was dismissed. February 15th, 2015, Ariton Powell filed a lawsuit against Rock Island Police for using unreasonable force to tackle her and pepper spray her when she was handcuffed in 2013. City settled that matter. December 1st, 2020, Anthony Gay filed a lawsuit against Rock Island Police Department for Fourth Amendment violations that occurred in May of 2020. And this included excessive force when Anthony Gay was handcuffed, forced to the ground, and kneed in the face. The city settled that matter. February 12th, 2025, Dustin Hook was outside working on his mini bike. At that time, several RIPD officers approached him with guns drawn. Mr. Hook put his hands up immediately to comply, at which time RIPD officers tackled him and then kicked, punched, and kneed him in the back. This turned out to be a case of mistaken identity. In March 28th, 2025, Daryl McCoy had his tibia and fibula bones broken by Rock Island police, resulting in metal rods, staples, and screws having to be surgically inserted into McCoy's leg after officers came to a domestic disturbance call at his own residence that was placed by McCoy. So, when you take the totality of what's been happening over the years, now well over a decade in Rock Island, their lack of training, their failure to rein in police officers, this is something, folks, that will continue to happen until we make it stop. And this lawsuit will aim to make it stop. When we take on a lawsuit, and this family behind me is fully supportive, we will make changes that will be for the good of not only Jakarta's family, but for this entire community. That's what we aim to do. In the same way that we aimed to help out the family of Sonia Massey, the same exact way. The conduct that was used on Jakarta Jackson was excessive, reckless, and directly resulted in his unnecessary death. It resulted in his suffering. If you've seen the video, you know that he was suffering. And if you haven't seen the video, I will point to Jakarta's breathing after he was shot. And you hear that breathing, which sounds almost like out of a horror movie. It's called agonal breathing, Agonal. And that's typically the precursor to death when you're breathing like that. Literally, you can't breathe. That is suffering. It's distressing and disturbing to see how Officer Taylor treated him in the moments after he was shot, dragging him out of the car, kind of like a farm animal, handcuffing him immediately because supposedly he posed continued threat to him. We know this city has had a deep and distressing problem for years with its aggressive police. Police officers are guardians of the peace, not militant warriors. The city of Rock Island, Officer Taylor, and the chief need to be held fully accountable and responsible for Jakarta's death. And we aim to do that on behalf of his estate and behalf of his child. I'd now like to turn it over to Attorney Maura White, and she's going to discuss with you in far more detail than I did the lawsuit that was filed. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. Let me review the facts, then provide you with a high-level summary of the lawsuit filed in this case. On January 5th, Rock Island Police Department officer Brett Taylor observed 21-year-old Jakarta driving a car with tinted windows darker than the local ordinance would allow, which is a petty offense in Illinois. Jakarta was unarmed, and he was with his young daughter, his young nephew, and 3 other adults who were passengers in his car. Jakarta parked his car and got out of his car when Officer Taylor then parked behind Jakarta's car with his police lights activated. Officer Taylor followed Jakarta, he used profanity, and he threatened to shoot Jakarta, who was not threatening his safety in any way. Jakarta returned to the car, where Officer Taylor used his police baton to shatter the driver's side window. The children in the car screamed in fear. But Officer Taylor did not relent. Officer Taylor then grabbed Jakarta by his clothing while Jakarta's hands were up, and he pleaded with Officer Taylor, "What did I do? What did I do?" Officer Taylor replied again with profanity and threats to shoot Jakarta. And Jakarta began to drive while Officer Taylor jumped into the car. The car traveled a short distance, hit a street sign, and then stopped. Officer Taylor fired his weapon at least 5 times into that stopped car, striking Jakarta and causing him to suffer and die. He did this with the other plaintiffs in the passenger compartment of the car. And after the incident, the police reported that they located nothing of note in the car. And according to the state's attorney's office report on the incident, there was no weapon of any kind found in the car either. At no point did Jakarta make verbal threats of harm towards Officer Taylor or anybody else. At no point did Jakarta reach for his waistband or make movements inside the vehicle to even suggest that he had a weapon. At no point did Jakarta grab a weapon, much less threaten an officer with one, or pose a threat of bodily harm or death to any officer or anyone else. Officer Taylor told Jakarta he was going to shoot him. He made that threat over and over and over again. And back on January 5th, he made good on that threat. Jakarta Jackson was a victim of the Rock Island Police Department's failure to properly train, supervise, discipline, monitor, and control its police officers. And on that day, Officer Taylor did, in fact, shoot and kill Jakarta. This lawsuit was filed on June 10th, 2025, in the United States District Court for the Central District of Illinois. The defendants in the complaint include the City of Rock Island, Illinois, Rock Island Police Chief Timothy McLeod, and Rock Island Police Officer Brett Taylor. Plaintiffs in this case are Yanessa Martin as administrator of the estate of Jakarta Jackson, and the guardian of their minor child. Lucia Jackson as guardian of a minor child who was in the car when Jakarta was killed, and Ezekiel Jackson, Jakarta's brother, who was also in the car when Jakarta was killed. The claims in the lawsuit include excessive force in violation of the Fourth Amendment, willful and wanton conduct, wrongful death, respondeat superior, and one count of intentional infliction of emotional distress for each of the three plaintiffs who were inside the car, as well as municipal liability. The complaint demands a trial by jury. I'd now like to let you hear from plaintiff Yanessa Martin, who is the administrator of Jakarta's estate and the mother of his young daughter.
Hi, everybody. I'm Yanessa. In life before Jakarta died, we were very much inseparable. Life isn't always easy, but we were always there for each other and for our daughter. He was a great father. He did anything for his little girl. He always thought about her and put her first before anything. We went to the trampoline park a day before Jakarta died, and he was jumping and playing with Yavela while all the other dads were just sitting around on the side. That's the kind of person or dad Jakarta was. The day Jakarta died was completely devastating. I saw it on someone's social media first, and I knew my daughter was inside the car too, and I had no idea what happened to them. I learned Jakarta was shot, and it took a while for me to confirm that he died. It's been so painful trying to explain to our daughter that she can't see her dad ever again. She can't talk with him ever again. We are all still adjusting, and so many things are different. Our daughter talks about her dad every day, and we just have to keep going. We have to hold Rock Island police accountable for what they did to Jakarta and what they did to my daughter. Thank you.
Okay, we will open it up for questions from the press for attorneys. Thank you.
Can I go to paragraph 75 in the complaint real quick? That's where you talk about the other instances, of course, happened in Rock Island. A little bit more about the commonalities there and why you think that those instances.
Absolutely. So, in each of these incidents, there is a situation where an officer is escalating the situation or officers that doesn't need to happen. And that's the same thing that happened here. Officer Taylor escalated a situation that went from 0 to 60 very quickly. He used his baton to shatter the window, threatened Jakarta multiple times that he was going to shoot him, and ultimately did make good on that promise. And in each of these examples, these are the types of force where things were escalated that didn't need to be, and citizens in some cases died or were seriously injured.
I'm not sure who this question is for, but I wonder, was there any consideration given to naming the union, police union, in this lawsuit? If so, why not? And is there any concern about what role the union might play in both hiring, policy development, and the retention, the defense of officers in some cases, and the retention of officers? Was that a concern at all?
There's a lot to unpack with that question. I think it's a fair question. But first, let me say this. If we find other responsible parties as we're doing our discovery on the case and as we're taking depositions, we still have an opportunity to amend the complaint to add those responsible parties. Now, you said something about hiring qualified police officers and making sure that only qualified police officers get hired. It's shocking to know that if any one of us goes to, a barber shop or a hair salon, that person is licensed. They have a license. Every year they have to renew their license with the state of Illinois. Police officer doesn't have to do that. And that's why Senate Bill 1953, which passed the House and the Senate, and hopefully will go to the governor's desk soon, will address your question, sir, about qualified police officers, ensuring that only the best get hired. Because right now, there's a big hole. Even as good as the Safety Act was a couple years ago when it passed, there were some things that needed to be added to it. And Senate Bill 1953 is one of those add-ons, which we hope will make it better for communities to have safer policing.
I want to go back to something we haven't talked about yet, and that's the integrity task force report that cleared Officer Taylor of any wrongdoing. Just wondering what mistakes might have been made in that report, or how did they reach their conclusion?
Well, let's kind of go back, for 100 years and figure out why police officers get cleared when we look at something and it seems obvious. You know, you're talking about an administrative proceeding, right? And would this family like to see administrative justice? Yeah. Do they want criminal justice? Well, that's not going to happen. We know he hasn't been charged with a crime. Do they want civil accountability? Yes. Hopefully that's what we'll achieve here. With what you're talking about, I can't answer why the Integrity Task Force cleared this. Why would they have cleared it? Based on the officer's narrative. His narrative. If he said that I felt that I was in threat for bodily harm, or I thought that Jakarta was going to somehow kill me, they're going to say that's reasonable for him to have felt that way because that's how he felt. And then because Jakarta can't speak for himself, he doesn't have a say in this. They're going to take the officer's word over Jakarta's, despite the fact that his hands were up with nothing inside of his hands and no weapon was ever found. So yes, do we take the task force? We do, but we can't rewrite history if they see it that way.
So obviously, you guys know that this has been a really divisive incident in our community, protests out on the streets. Can you talk a little bit about the argument on the other side is that, hey, if Jakarta had just listened to the police, he'd still be alive today. Can you respond to that?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that because we hear that not only here but across the country. Well, had they only complied, had he not run away, right, then nothing would have happened. But you see, it's not a simple answer. It's a very complex, deeply rooted question that goes back to the 17 and 1800s of how black people have been treated and the supremacy of many whites over blacks. And that is where it's rooted. And it's almost something that's ingrained in our society and in the communities. So why did he run? Well, because he knew. He knew that just like I'm going to make an example, just like George Floyd. George Floyd knew that if he went into police custody, he had a very good chance of maybe not coming out of it because of the racist police tactics that existed in Minneapolis. It's no different here. No different. That's what happens. If you are on the wrong side of color and you get into police custody, then you have a chance of not coming out or coming out injured or even coming out falsely arrested, maybe wrongfully convicted. Look at the numbers. They don't lie. It's something that our society has not yet fully accepted. And very unfortunately, with the way these executive orders are coming out of Washington, I don't know that it's going to get better very soon. But that's why it's up to our mayors, our governors, our attorney generals, and finally the lawyers to ensure that the rule of law is followed. That's who's left to ensure that the rule is followed, and that's what we aim to do.
So there's a new mayor in town, and Jakarta's family supported him during the campaign. And this was an issue that he talked about on the campaign trail. What do you want the new mayor to do about this?
Well, and thank you for bringing that up. I don't know the new mayor. I hope to know him because what the best thing that he could do is similar to what Mayor Fry did in Minneapolis. Just be transparent and have an open dialogue. And then what happens is that there's trust. And if you build trust in a community, you're not going to have people running from the police. It won't. If you trust a police officer, you won't run. But because there's no trust, because as Jakarta was getting out of his car, the first thing he hears was, "I am going to effing shoot you." There's more of a chance that someone's going to run from that and try and get away from a gun being pointed at your back when you're unarmed and haven't committed a crime at that point that warrants a gun pointed at the back of your head. So I welcome the new mayor's dialogue and being able to sit down with him and actually figuring out a way to improve relations in this community. That would be everyone's, I think, number one goal.
Thank you. One last question.
There was no monetary damages mentioned.
The-
Do you have an idea?
No, we never have that idea. Obviously, as you know, we have to plead the jurisdictional limits, which are, $50,000 for state claims. But we don't know what it is that we're seeking right now. It's hard to know, especially because of the age of the baby that was in the car, and we don't know what her actual damages and monetary harms and losses will be. But that's something that we will be able to determine.
Thank you, everyone. Appreciate that.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Any questions to press@rblaw.net, and we will be circulating that video statement from Attorney Crump shortly. Yes, I'm happy to read. If you can take them all back to the room, I'm just going to spell names for them. Okay, folks, let's spell. Our first speaker, Attorney Antonio, not Anthony, Antonio Romanucci, Antonio. Romanucci is Romanucci. Attorney Maura White, Maura, standard spelling of white, White. That is correct. That is correct. Let's see. You have spelling. Yep, you have spelling for Ben Crump. Yanessa is Yanessa. Martin, Martin. Thank you very much.